We often say that memory is a faculty that forgets. Well, attention is a bit the same, right? Attention is a faculty that gets distracted. And so with psychological interventions, what we want to do is identify the psychological processes that act in this distraction, but that can also help recuperate attention. And so there's going to be a whole host of psychological processes that we're going to talk about in this lesson. Namely attention processes, obviously, but also memory processes, executive functions, and some other problems can come and interfere with the individual's development or their daily life. We also want to attend to other types of processes such as regulation processes, emotion regulation processes, behavioral regulation processes. So we're going to talk about all of these processes when we address the topic of psychological interventions. Now, more precisely, in terms of what are the symptoms that are targeted by psychological interventions. First off, obviously, the diagnostic symptoms. So the diagnostic symptoms, we think, are underlaid by the main processes of attention, memory, as well as executive functions. Now, an individual can have associated problems, such as depression, anxiety, substance use and abuse, anger management, maybe sleep problems as well. So concerning these associated set of problems, we are going potentially to focus on other types of mechanisms, such as identification of emotion, regulation of emotion, as well as identification of behavioral patterns and the regulation of behavioral patterns. Now let's focus more precisely on attentional mechanisms. So attention is typically divided in a series of processes that characterize the activation of attention, selection of attention, as well as the control of attention. And then this gives for different types or components of attention. So I can select my attention, or my attention can select the object that it is concentrating on. It also needs to be sustained, so we often talk about sustained attention, to which extent I can really concentrate for a while, as well as how much can I divide my attention, and how robust is this division. Okay, so let's give some examples now that relate to ADHD symptoms. So for example, selective attention is going to help me pay attention to detail, like when I fill out forms. But then if I have a problem with selective attention, I may make a lot of mistakes that are linked to details. If I have difficulties in sustaining my attention, then perhaps in a conversation I might kind of lose the plot. I might have difficulty in concentrating on a movie for the whole time. Okay? And then if I have issues with divided attention, with this division, if this division is not robust enough, I am likely to get distracted by external noise that is going to put me off task. So these attentional mechanisms obviously are going to interact with other types of mechanisms, such as memory mechanisms. So let's take a really simple but useful model of memory, which is Atkinson and Shiffrin's model of immediate memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. So immediate memory is something that actually comes with our sensory processing. All of our senses really capture information really quickly, but not for that much of a long time. It's really immediate. Then we have another set of mechanisms that can keep information on the short term, called short-term memory, and this enables us to work on information in the here and now. And then as time goes, we evolve towards the memory of long-term information. So that's really the conservation of information for a longer term, notably in the form of episodes, autobiographic memory, and the like. Now, what we need to realize in terms of psychological interventions is that for ADHD, most of the interventions focus on short-term memory processes. Okay? So then we need a model to understand how short-term memory works. And we can take Baddeley's model of the central administrator. So the central administrator model of Baddeley suggests that there are three main components. The administrator, which is like a conductor that directs an orchestra, directs information that is more visual-spatial. So Baddeley is going to call that the visual-spatial sketchpad. And then the third component is the phonological loop, which has to do with all of the information that is contained in verbal content. So this conductor, this central administrator, is very important to coordinate all these informations and enable some work, that is, some reflection on the material that is in short-term memory. So you can imagine how important this is, but also that it links up to attention mechanisms and that it will also link up to what we call executive mechanisms. So this is where we're going. In the next video, we are going to actually interview Fiona Journal, an expert in executive functions, and we are going to detail each of these executive functions that is linking up with the central administrator, this conductor of orchestra, to really help us understand actually how in psychological interventions we are going to employ and try to identify and try to find some solutions to the problems of attention, to the problems of learning that occur in daily life in ADHD individuals.